Me varattiin sulle paikka äärivasemmalta.
Oi, äärifeministinen paikka.
Sitten katsotaan niinku puheenjohtajista.
Okay, it's been a long day and actually for me it's been a long week. Maybe even a month. So another perspective, we had in the morning we had some academic and studies and that kind of background from the government and the regulator, and then we had the vendors, and now we have the people with the potential for getting some decision power and maybe even money, or one hopes. So in the program it says that we are having a political panel, views on SMRs from Ecomodernists who are running for parliament. So these people, as far as I know, are all members of Ecomodernist Society of Finland, which is the organizing group here. And it was one night and I couldn't get sleep, and then I got this idea that we actually have members in our society from most of the different kind of party lines that you could have. I know that we have 9 parties in the parliament right now, and then several that are outside the parliament. Basically, these are the names that popped into my mind because I know some of them, or basically all of them, from other activities as well in the Ecomodernist Society. So, and there was some joking that this is going to be the most boring, panel, and I even wrote this kind of headline for it that politicians in Finland, most boring panel on the elections. Everybody's agreeing that we need shitloads of SMRs really fast to decarbonize heat. But let's try to dig in on some. I'm not saying that there should be differences, but maybe different points of view. And please help me. Like I said, it's been a long month, so I'm kind of on my last legs regarding this. But let's start with a. Well, I will draw the conclusions from the day that we had, that we noticed that SMRs could be a cost-effective, timely, efficient way to decarbonize heating in Finland. And we could even get them built before the coal ban in 2029. It's within possibilities if we have political will, which is always they say that it's renewable, but it's not. Or maybe it's a little bit like peat, that it's slowly renewing. So I guess the worst bottlenecks are legislation and regulation and maybe public opinion and NIMBYism and stuff like that. Citing. So now we're going to hear the political spectrum views on these topics. But we could start with an introduction. So tell us your name, your party, your voting district and number, obviously, and maybe a couple words of your background, how you got in the politics, how you got into Ecomodernism, and to be a valiant supporter of nuclear as a solution. You could start. Okay.
My name is Törmänen, and I'm the chair of the Ecomodernist Society of Finland. So I'm actually.
She's my boss.
Yes. And I'm also the leader of the Liberal Party in Finland. So I'm holding 2 chairs at the moment, which is really nice during the elections. Keeps me busy. And so I'm running for the parliament in the Uusimaa district, and number is 236. It's always really difficult to remember, so I hopefully got it right. And what else?
A little bit background on you. What do you do?
Actually,
none of us is getting.
Right now, I'm doing this YouTube project about climate change that is directed to young people that go to high school. I mean, high school age. So I have the top YouTubers from Finland that have the most followers, like me, Sasku, so I think the most popular YouTuber in Finland. And so we're doing 6 videos about climate change, and I'm founded by the Nestle Foundation. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm also doing a PhD at the University of Helsinki about dog cognition. So I'm an animal behaviorist as well, but that's on hold right now. And I have 2 daughters and a one of them you saw actually, the baby.
She had some insightful comments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think the most important things.
Yeah, you don't need to drag it all.
Yeah.
Why are you running for office? Could you give one out?
Yeah. Why do you want to be in parliament? I know the pay is decent, but
Yeah.
other reasons.
Because I think I have so much knowledge about these issues because my background education is a biologist, so I have information about biology. I mean, knowledge about biology, biodiversity, and all the climate change issues, and I couldn't find a politician that was on the same level I thought. So why not run? Basically,
Yeah. Good. Piia.
Okay. My name is Piia Aallonharja, and I'm running to the parliament from the True Finns list, and in Uusimaa, and my number is 45. And I'm a chairman of the Kirkkonummi True Finns Association, and I'm also a councillor in Kirkkonummi. And I'm a Bachelor of Business Administration, and I work as an IT consultant, so I'm not engineer. If I need to ask something about nuclear engineering, I contact SEM community and I get all the answers, so I'm really happy about that. And I'm running for the parliament because one reason is to promote nuclear power, because I think that we need more clean energy. Yes, that is the main reason.
Can I agree on that? What about you, Petrus?
Yeah, so my name is Petrus Pennanen. I'm chairman of the Pirate Party of Finland. I'm a member of the Helsinki City Council, and I have a PhD in theoretical nuclear physics. So I was doing research in lattice quantum chromodynamics, which is not really about the reactors, but it's about nuclear force. And then I've been a software entrepreneur quite successfully. And yeah, but I got into nuclear power. First thing was when I was 14. I was working at the Fortum, which was called Imatra Voima, doing database programming to calculate expense estimates for nuclear power plants when I was 14 years old. Wow. 1986. Yes. So I mean, I'm not totally independent. No. Okay. Anyway, so why do I want to be? Because I'm sure if I get to the parliament, I will get so much done there. Even just one person making very well argumented statements, brave statements, gives a lot of room for the other members of parliament to change their opinion. So I've seen that happen in the council.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Congratulations on those. Atte, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Atte Harjanne from the Green Party. I'm a city councillor in Helsinki as well. My job is I do climate risk related research in the Finnish Meteorological Institute, and I'm also trying to finish my PhD on the similar topic to other University School of Business. Yeah, my main platform for running for the parliament is science-driven climate policy, and of course here nuclear is then one issue. And I really think, kind of following Petrus here, that in the city council I've already made quite an impact, and would be also quite a let's say interesting symbolic thing to have a very pro-nuclear Green Party member in the parliament.
International news.
Yeah, I already now get sometimes these messages from across Europe that can you actually come here? We don't believe that you exist.
We work together.
But I have to talk. The Finnish the Green Party in Finland is very, I'd say, quite pragmatic and very science-oriented. So.
Okay, and you were running in Helsinki?
Helsinki, yeah.
Number was
28.
Also that.
Yeah, Helsinki 67, yeah. We've been working closely together, so we've had a great cooperation in the council, across party lines.
Helsinki 28.
Very eco-modern of you. What about you, Tiina?
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Tiina Rytky. I'm from the Social Democratic Party, so I guess I'm far left here. And my number is my number, don't laugh at me, please. 238, and I've been following these two guys, what they've been doing in the City Council of Helsinki. I'm very proud of you both. And you've been doing a very great job when raising the question and discussion about the small modular reactors here in Helsinki, because I think it's a very topical thing here, because we're going to be banning coal. And what I do is, I have a job in one of the sponsors of this event, a power company called Fennovoima, which is building a new greenfield plant here in Helsinki. I'm currently on election leave from my task in public relations and communications, and actually my job in the power or energy sector is probably one of the reasons I'm sitting here at the moment, because when I started the job and started thinking about that, what do we do? Why do we build nuclear power in Finland? Is there any sense in all of this? Was that the way or the path that I started digging into this issue of climate change, and it has really been quite revealing path with the Ecomodernist Society and all that, to see that the nuclear really has to be part of our energy sector. And I thought that, of course, the job that I was doing or am doing in the Fennovoima is pretty important to tackle the climate change, but I actually feel that this campaign of mine is my personal climate action. This is the one thing that I can do to prevent the climate change, so that's why I'm here.
Right. And last but not least,
the far left.
Just sometimes the far left guy. Tere.
Yeah, hi. I'm Tere Sammallahti. I'm from Kokoomus, which would be the National Coalition Party in English, and I've got my engineering degree from HVAC designing and then civil engineering from the Widener University in Pennsylvania, United States. I've been working as a designer in contracting, in sales, energy and environmental consulting and so forth, and I've been politically active pretty much since 2005 or so, and when I came back to Finland, I thought that I need to get back to the politics, and I think we share a common mission to increase the low carbon energy sources here in Finland. I might add to that I'm also really fond of creating the economical base for those operations, but I don't know if I have. I'm running from Uusimaa, number 169, and don't know if that was all that needs to be said. Well, I have to say, my hats off to Petrus and Atte for the work you guys have done for the SMR.
Give them a big hand?
Yeah.
Maybe we will hear a little bit later on what actually happened. But because I just noted that I know these things and we all know these things, but maybe not everybody knows what happened there, we are clapping for. So we can go that a little bit later. Let's have another round, maybe in reverse. Can you tell us a bit how your party sees nuclear and maybe specifically SMRs, how you see them? And is there a causation somewhere there?
For National Coalition Party, I know that we don't have mention about SMRs in our, how do you say it?
Official party line.
Huh?
Official party line? Platform?
Yeah, the election, whatever. We've been the most pro-nuclear party for decades here in Finland, so in that sense I don't see any problem with incorporating the SMR policies and the philosophy into our politics, but as Petrus there said, it takes quite a bit of work and quite a bit of facts brought up by people who know how to argue their position. So I know there's I have a good chance to influence the party politics, but it's going to take some time.
And some votes.
Yeah, and some votes. So yeah, please spread the good word. For myself, well, I don't think we need to go to the obvious, I would say, when it comes to SMRs. Like, I'm very pro nuclear power, have been for 20 years or so, and well, my main mission is to bring that to the National Coalition Party politics, to the national politics, but as I said, there needs to be an economic basis for it, and that's one of the political branches I'm trying to tackle.
Had you been here the whole day, you would have learned that there is an excellent basis for that if we just set the things in the right way.
Yes, my election leave was supposed to start today, but as it happens, I'm building the Sammallahti metro stations there, and yeah, well, things don't usually go according to plans when it comes to that project. So yeah, unfortunately, I missed the great
Just
things
have to
here.
take the one.
No.
Shut. Shut up. How about the Social Democrats?
We don't have an official stand. It's a bit divided. There is a big bloc that supports nuclear power, and then there are a bit smaller bloc that really doesn't approve it. So it's kind of as in the Parliament of Finland, when there are any decisions of principle, it's kind of a matter of ethics or conscience. You can vote freely.
Yeah.
So
I always
that's
find that weird that somebody actually can vote no.
Yeah.
If it's a matter of conscience and they still say that we need to stop climate change.
But that's pretty much like, there are blocks inside my party, but I think that maybe a bit bigger amount is pro-nuclear, maybe. I hope it is. But I've been trying to, every time I sit in a panel, I've been trying to somehow kind of bring it on or bring it inside. Like in these various panels we've been discussing about politics in Finland, it's almost every time you talk about innovations, you talk about public support or education, and especially climate change. So you can actually you can talk about nuclear power in every panel in some way. Actually, like yesterday we were sitting in Aallonharja Library, which is my hometown library, and we were like talking about how universities should be funded. And I knew this very beautiful example from Lappeenranta University, where there are students coming from, was it Saudi Arabia or somewhere from the Middle East, coming in and paying for the education they got from the Lappeenranta University, like nuclear education. So we can really gain from the innovation or knowledge we have in Finland from the industry, and there are very many ways. But it's kind of something that you...
Yeah. I can help you a little bit, though. I remember that your chairman of the party gave an interview to the Helsinki Sanomat, biggest newspaper here, and he did mention specifically that we could use SMRs to decarbonize city heating. So it's encouraging that it's being recognized. I mean, Social Democrats are currently the biggest party in the polls, so they could be the prime minister party. So this could be our next prime minister talking.
It's say that we're not like
so
strongly
he's
against.
recognizing the issue, and I think that's ultimately a good thing.
No.
Okay, Atte.
Yeah, well, of course, the Green Party is traditionally the anti-nuclear party, but I'd emphasize traditionally since our latest political program, which was accepted or decided in the last General Assembly of the party, has a statement. It says that, I don't remember exact word, but that we're open to all kinds of low carbon tech in the future, but that we are critical to big and slow and expensive nuclear power plants. Well, that's kind
Everybody
of... But there's a very lively energy policy debate going on in the Green Party all the time, and I guess me being here and running for the parliament tells something that it's not like totally anti-nuclear. I think in the latest polls done by Tuomo, is if I remember correctly, it's like 22% of the Greens voter base already say that they support increased nuclear buildup. we have a very big faction within the party called like Greens for Science and Technology, or some. I translated it like this, and then which is quite pro-nuclear. Of course, it's a big faction also, that there are different kinds of stances within that faction as well. And also the Greens have labeled themselves, or we have labeled ourselves as the science party, and that we have the culture of best argument, so that we really we discuss and debate, and then we decide what we think. So these are not just nice words, but they actually mean something. So that we can see the change. So that it's a lively debate. I'd say the Green Party is in transition. I wouldn't expect us to become the biggest promoters of nuclear power in just about now, but the stance is changing. So the old history is very anti-nukes, back in the 80s and 70s, that stream is all. It's not the main debate anymore. It's more about we need cost-efficient, good ways to technically tackle climate change.
Here I would like to point out that actually in Finland I don't think there's any party in the parliament that is saying that we should prematurely close nuclear power plants, or that we shouldn't extend their lifetime if it's acceptable to Stuk. So that's including the Greens and the Reds and everything.
The leftist party, the Vasemmisto, they used to have a stance that we need a nuclear tax, but I think they removed it from their political program already. So that you can't. But even they don't have that anymore.
They had that in Sweden, but
So they had it here as well as an idea, but it's I don't think it's in the latest program anymore.
So the pirates.
Yeah, so our official program states the power plants which utilize fossil fuels need to be replaced with nuclear power, which can be produced in both large units and also in SMRs. So we do have the smaller modular reactors in our official party program.
Great. Did you write that?
And what?
Did you write that?
I think I might have been editing it a bit. Yeah, I'm the chairman, so good. And then it says the nuclear power can be augmented by solar and wind power and low emission fuels. So nuclear, and it can be augmented. I think this makes sense because they are variable energy forms, and there's not so much capacity and so on. I don't know. Do you want to know more? Is that enough?
Well, that's enough. I'd say you're
it's clear.
Pretty much on board.
Yeah.
On this. Yeah. What about
True Finns?
True Finns.
Okay, we are the probably the biggest pro-nuclear parliament party. Not the only one, but the parliament party that is pro-nuclear, and we have in our political program that backbone of the Finnish energy should be in nuclear, and we have also the SMRs in our program.
Did you have something to do with that?
Probably I had, because I have quite good relations with the political planner of the party. So I think that they didn't even know what is SMR before I told them. Thanks to Petrus and Atte and Ecomodernists.
Okay, Tere.
Yeah, we have also the nuclear power and SMRs in our party program, and I wrote it. So the energy part of our program. So we're definitely pro-nuclear, and it's actually a big part of our campaign right now for us. So actually, if you go to Kampi and you see our poster, it says nuclear there as well, like on our tent. So I mean, we've been promoting it in our advertising during this election. So
this kind of brings to mind this kind of nuclear easily gets to be an identity question for and now you're kind of running openly pro-nuclear, and maybe somebody else you're running personally Atte as pro-nuclear, but from not so pro-nuclear party. I mean, if you're all pro-nuclear, how you can make an identity crisis out of it? I mean, do you have any comments on on this side. If we have somebody from the left who is pro-nuclear, and then you have somebody from the right who is trying to kind of use his pro-nuclear stance to gain votes from the other parties by being pro-nuclear, but if everybody is so, does it cease to be an identity question?
Well, as I'm been working for the industry for the last 4 years, I in some point felt like I got very tired of talking about nuclear power because we talk about it all the time. So I kind of thought that this is a campaign that I don't really want to talk about it that much. So I think it's like when you think about it, the nuclear power is not. It's not the goal to have nuclear power. The goal is to tackle the climate change, and that's just one very efficient tool, and that is just one path to go to that point. So I'm not promoting nuclear power, I'm promoting mitigating the emissions. That's the one I want to do, and all the paths that go to that point are good ones, so that's what I want to do.
That is also very eco-modern of you.
Yeah, of course.
Petrus?
Yeah, I think there's an identity issue when people talk about it based on their prejudices or not really going into trying to understand it. Like, I learned this in my family, my parents are against it, I learned in my parents are for it. Then it's an identity issue. But once you start talking about in very clear terms about the actual practical facts related to it. So, hey, you need 1 gram of this or you need a kilogram of that, to make the same power, like this. Then people start to understand, and then it's no longer an identity issue. Once you get to the actual basic discussion of what it is and people start to understand it, then it's easy to build common ground.
It's a common sense issue after that. I think Tere had...
I have to agree with Petrus here that we have plenty of good arguments for nuclear, and when you bring them to the people who doubt the technology, it's actually pretty easy to kind of convert people to understand the positive sides of nuclear energy. But as I said, I've been talking about this issue for, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so. And
Longer than me.
Well, you've been doing it in the industry, and I've been doing it in the internet. So it's a bit of a different field of talking. But back in the days, like when you went back to the 2000s, early 2000s, people were really angry if you even said out loud that you're for nuclear energy or nuclear energy isn't that bad or so forth. And these days, it's not really an issue anymore. It just doesn't bring out such hate as it used to do 15 years ago. Yeah. So I feel that it's not as much of an identity issue rather than a pragmatical everyday issue.
And something that I have noticed, especially with these kind of elections coming on and party leaders giving these statements, and they are getting asked this SMR question, is that they are actually, even if they were against traditional like nuclear and opposed the Fennovoima project and maybe the Olkiluoto project before that, they are getting a kind of new perspective with the small, distributed, novel approach that we could have. And I think that's very valuable in this sense that you can start changing the discussion and kind of get people out of their potholes a little bit and take a look around what's happening.
I think it's very logical because one of the reasons that people oppose to nuclear power is because they feel that it's slow and it's very expensive. If we can overcome those feelings or things that are there, that there are very big projects, that very complicated projects that we discussed today. So I think that the public support should rise.
Yeah,
it's very, very down to earth.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think there are today the world is getting more polarized and society is getting polarized, and I think as a politician you can either feed those identity politics or you can try to dismantle them. And I think it's more responsible to do the latter. So I think that's what I try to do. I mean, I also, like Tiina, I'm not, the idea is not that I would be like, go nuclear. It's more like, okay, we have this issue, of conserving biodiversity, of tackling climate change, and we need energy sources to do that. And nuclear is one of really good options. And let's look at the whole box of tools for that. And it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know if it gets me enough votes or anything, but it's fun that having, for example, talked a lot about decreasing meat consumption, and then talking about we should build nuclear power plants, and then you meet people who these don't normally go hand to hand with one politician or something. This kind of eco-modernist way of talking for a general like a populace, it's a bit weird, and then you see that people start thinking of like, hey, okay, I might have to reconsider my ideas as well. And that's when I feel I've made an impact. I don't know if he or she votes for me, but you can say that something's happening. And I think that's what we need for nuclear power. Not to be.
I'm sad to say that might not always win the votes.
Yeah,
but it's still very important kind of work that you do. What do you do?
Yeah, I would like to say that actually nowadays talking about cutting meat consumption gets more angry comments than like talking about nuclear. So it's more controversial to say that we should cut the meat consumption in half than to say I promote nuclear. So
yeah, exactly. the late Professor David McKay said that in an interview before he passed away a couple of years ago, that you think that nuclear is controversial. He tries to start talking people to kind of convert their diets to something else that's a completely different level, and at least for many people I think that is the case. It's very personal on what I choose to ingest into my body.
Also, I mostly get positive feedback, and I think it's easy for me to talk about nuclear as well as like I talk about other things as well for climate change, but because I'm a woman and I'm a biologist, so people kind of trust me, so that I'm not like and I talk about saving the wolves and stuff like that, so they can't see me as this evil person that gets money from energy companies. So they tend to trust what I say. And if I say that nuclear safe and we need it to protect the environment, and then they're like, okay, well maybe I should reconsider.
This is actually a very important point. Is that what you just demonstrated is that first you show the people that you care, and then they start to care what you actually say.
Yeah.
Before we go to the audience questions, I promised you a quick update on what happened with these two guys. So you want to do what? Go through quickly what you did in the Helsinki municipality when you got elected 2 years ago?
The initiative has your name, so maybe you can start.
Yeah, well, basically before the municipal election in 2017, 2 years ago, I made a blog post. Well, I've been blogging about nuclear for a long time, but I made a blog post about nuclear district heating in particular, which had a big pile of coal and a small ball of thorium, and that's the picture. That's kind of communication we need. People, hey, you want this pile of coal or you want this sphere of metal? Let's make it simple. And then I had the idea of collecting candidates from across different parties who would support doing planning and studies of how to implement in practice the nuclear district heating. And then Ecomodernists joined in and they started to collect this list. And I think you were on the list, and there was more than 100 people. And then I think we met before. Did we meet before the election?
Right after the election.
Right after before we started work, and we agreed to work together. And then I made this my first initiative, like almost second meeting of the council, was for the nuclear district heating survey. And then I showed it to him, and he edited the bit, and then I filed it. Then we started to get the support, and it was a lot of work to get the support. And we both did so many speeches, writing blogs, talking one-to-one, all of it, like a lot of it, and it took like couple of months, half a year, and it was slow. I mean, normally you get quickly, do something to help the poor little kittens on the street, you get support, but like look at this, that was a lot of work. So
would you like to have a nuclear reactor in your name?
But we got it through, and then it went to the
like the city organization.
City organization, They make the response, and then it came back, and then I can transfer. So you were probably strong support for me, and then at that time when it came to the council, then you were making your
because it's technical, but then we made a new initiative in a sense that the city has to make a plan for a completely decarbonized district heating system for 2035. And that's still the official response we're still waiting for, but that kind of started the idea that the energy company and the city have to look into this. And well, now we're here, and this all stuff, of course, gets mixed. Or like what that initiative had it brought it to the general public, and there were news pieces made and stuff like that. So now actually people know what SMRs are.
Yeah, when the initiative was first put out to the city organization, then there was a lot of publicity already, and the response we got was actually already that they accepted this as an option for Helsinki's climate strategy. So I mean, the background from my point of view is that when we started in the council, it said in the climate strategy we will invest in renewable fuels, renewable energy, and I was like, hey, I just want one little change. Let's scrap renewable and let's put low emissions. How about that? That we want all low emissions. How about? And then the mayor said, yeah, I support it, but I don't think the other mayor from the other party supports it. So for some reason, but that's been a big theme here. Yeah. So basically, they already approved it in the response that it's part of the strategy. But then he made this additional initiative to make a closer study on which they are doing now. And then we have the Helen, that's the company, Helsinki Energy. So I mean, they're sponsoring this event, and they have been blogging about it. Here we have one person involved in that, and and their director was now saying that this is very interesting. So SMR, so.
Yeah, and this all of this has happened in a year and a half, 2 years. So if this pace continues, I think we will have SMRs by 2023. But maybe it will slow down at some point. I have some backup questions here, but I would like to give you the chance to ask something the prospective parliamentary people here. Hey, Juhani.
Yeah, thank you. 2023, why should that be so unrealistic?
Well, at this pace, it's
because in the 60s, people built these things from an idea to a running plant in 4 or 5 years. So in very much more primitive conditions than we were.
Are we worse than those people? No, we're much more efficient. One should think, but we are also much more regulated.
We should be, but the regulation can be rethought as we have discussed.
Yeah, sure.
So, of course, this is a kind of collection of the believers already. So.
Can I have a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Just a short comment. I think human societies are very good at making things more complex, very bad at making them less complex, and I think that's one of the backgrounds we have. But in general, I would say that I have a feeling that we should be talking about timelines like this, because I think that we will look towards 10 years from now, the sense of climate urgency is getting, I mean, it's already, the climate debate now compared to what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is totally different, and we don't see results. We don't see like emissions curbing fast enough and so on. So we really should, I mean, stick to the idea that if we can technically do something fast, we should do it fast.
Yes, I was actually quite shocked that preliminary legislation takes about 4 to 5 years before it gets to Parliament.
There's so many stakeholders.
Yes. So this political process is really slow, and if it's possible to speed that up, we need to do that.
I'm this kind of outsider, both the politics and the industry, and pretty much everybody. So I'm just looking at from the climate point of view, that the climate science right now is saying that we need to get this shit going.
Yes.
And if you then start to argue, but we cannot do it because legislation and regulation prohibits that, then you really need to look at those and fix them fast to enable us to save ourselves. It would be ultimately ironic if humans would regulate their civilization to extinction, basically. Because that's from a communication kind of provocative point of view, that's the case. Kalev has a question.
Tere, I'm actually a former member of parliament here from Estonia, now doing hopefully nuclear in Estonia. So My question is, I don't know what is your relationship with Helen. I know it's municipality owned, but what is the relationship of city council? Are you able to dictate fundamentally to the council? This is what we want as shareholders, and this is what you do. And number two, how relevant from a political point of view is I'm reading from the report that the potential production cost of 20 euros per megawatt hour. In Tallinn, from combined heat and biomass, the production cost, what I checked right now, was about 30 from gas, which is the alternative to your healing or the coal, is definitely around 45 something. So definitely the alternative that I spoke earlier today is definitely more expensive than 20 production cost. I don't know whether you have discussed this reality with your voters or not yet.
Basically, not only is it cleaning up the system, it is also less expensive than pretty much anything else.
And I think the voters should be aware of that.
Yeah,
I agree. That's why I write books and stuff. But
I can comment this. Anyway, of course, you can add up. So yeah, basically, we can dictate. We can dictate completely, Helen. But now Mirka is there. But the city has a strategy or line that the city-owned businesses are businesses. So
Can I interrupt? You're talking about Helsinki city decision making, not the parliamentary.
No. But this is specifically Helen. So City of Helsinki owns Helen. So basically, but this is a thing that I think we're talking about right now, and it's a process because we have Helen, which is, I can say that it's not even, it's a forerunner in like pioneering a lot of energy things in this country. Then we have the coal ban legislation, which is a very non-market way of like cutting or like dictating Helen from the national level. And then we have in the city council a growing criticism towards the idea that we would shift coal to large amount of biomass burning. And this all is still in the run, and Helen is doing scenarios how this will be done. And I'm quite confident that it seems like we don't have to dictate Helen. So things are in that sense looking good, because I'm a bit worried all the time when politicians think that they're experts in running businesses. But to add to that about the prices, I think that's a debate we haven't had in the full scale yet. We're looking at hundreds of millions of euros worth of investment in the energy system in Helsinki in the coming decade, and it might cost something, and it might show. Or whatever it be. I mean, it's the city gets money from Helen now, so there's that. I think we haven't talked about that too much, but in that sense, the cost is a very important factor in the political debate. That if we can even stay in the ballpark of keeping the current prices or something like that, then that's a very good thing.
Yeah, so I could add a little bit. So basically, when we started in the council, it was all about replacing coal with biomass, and that's been the national line here. So we have the Centre Party, which has been the prime ministerial party, and they have been pushing like very quick stopping of all use of coal, because then they could replace that quickly with biomass. You know, you can burn coal, you can burn biomass. It's not much different, but it's of course very bad for the environment. And they had this completely unrealistic idea that it's zero emissions if you burn wood, which is crazy. But anyway, so that's been the big change that we've been doing with Atte, is to make everybody realize that biomass in Helsinki is far from clean. It has very large emissions actually, and destroys nature, biodiversity, and then introducing the nuclear power in terms of SMRs as the new scalable low-cost solution. And you are asking about the cost. So basically, there was a study at the National Research Agency, VTT, Ville Tulkki somewhere. He was doing it. That was done already 2017 December, and it concluded that even just a single kind of new scale type unit without serial producing and making it cheaper would be economically viable. Yeah. So I mean, we've been communicating this, but I guess this book is a great case of communicating it better.
Yeah, there's some comments.
Yeah, I was just thinking that however we're going to transfer into era of SMRs or whatever, like I think that the most important thing is the public support and the openness with the process, because people actually care a lot about energy, especially when it comes to your backyard or very close to you. I was just sitting in an event last night where the national gas company Gasum was kind of trying to transfer their gas pipeline from one place to another, and it was caused destroying one park very close to my living
backyard.
rooms. Yeah. Yeah.
Flying squirrels.
That's right. Yeah, and the flying squirrels and all that. And people were actually very crazy about it and very angry about it, because they felt that it had been done some kind of a not telling anybody, not having an open discussion, not being able to affect the decision making. So however the SMRs will be built, we have to be very, very open about it and tell and engage in the discussion about it, because that's the only way to go. There's no other way.
I actually wrote down this maybe it was also from Kalev. What I wanted to ask you all is, what could be the value proposition for the people, the SMRs? Would you like to have a nuclear reactor on your backyard?
Maybe on the...
Why did they say yes?
If there was the Mankalan, you could invest in it. So why not?
Okay, that's one.
The Tuuli SMRs.
Well, I have to take a comment on the communication and marketing of the whole thing, because we can always talk about, this and that many euros per megawatt or megawatt hours or whatever, but the fact is that most of the people don't know these measuring scales. It doesn't tell anything to them, so we have to bring up our marketing skills a bit. I've used plenty of Energiateollisuus slides and all kinds of data, and I think the politicians need to work with the interest groups to bring the arguments to the table. If I knew what to do with those things, I would have done them already, but there needs to be a way to popularize the whole idea and all the scales and everything. So
Petrus, you are the expert of popularizing things easily.
Yeah, but it's important to say things very clear. Don't use any abbreviations, don't use any fancy words. All fancy words make very simple words, and talk about practical stuff you can hold in your hand. This is a ball, this is a pile of coal, that kind of stuff. But you were asking about the NIMBY issue. So in Helsinki we have a case of, there's this biomass burning plant, and they're now planning a new plant in Helsinki. And with the biomass, you need twice as much wood as coal to generate the same energy. So actually here, next door, they burn 500,000 cubic meters of coal every year. That's the biggest chimney in Helsinki. And if they plan to convert that to biomass, it's 1 million cubic meters. So it means there's a lot of traffic, and because it's not always brought in by ship like the coal is now, there's a lot of truck traffic, and
it's harder to store.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opposition now from the people around this plant that there will be so much truck traffic and pollution from the trucks and all of that. So there's a lot of oppositions which we can use.
You would get none of that with an SMR.
Exactly. No pollution, no traffic.
Rauli, I have a question now.
Seems important.
It is. Because if you want to have nuclear reactors in Helsinki, it's a government decision. Is that okay with you? And now if you get elected, you would need to vote for that in Parliament, for the size of reactors or for the size of the nuclear plant that you would need in Helsinki for any useful purpose. So is this a decision that you would like to make in the Helsinki Municipality Council? Or is this something that you definitely want the Parliament, the government to take and the Parliament to take, considering the possibility that the next Prime Minister might be pro-nuclear, but the Prime Minister after him might come again from some backwards moving party.
What go to the parliament is change the legislation so that you have type approval of a reactor, and then you have a simplified, easy construction permit mechanism instead of like having a huge €100 million single permit.
So
for
if you get
single
in, you
reactor.
have exactly 4 years to get that done.
I've been actually discussing that in my campaign that for SMRs we shouldn't go through the parliament approval at all because it's.
So then you need to
Yeah.
draw a line so that if it's 300 megawatts electric, you don't have to get decision in principle. If it's 301, then you need to get that.
If it was up to me, I wouldn't go through to the parliament at all with any reactors, but that's not it's not realistic maybe. But for SMRs it
I'd say
might
that.
be, yeah.
Might be. And there's also good sides to the decision in principle, as has been pointed out before, because if you get the permission, then you have,
Yeah.
that's the end of the politics.
Yeah.
If you don't have, then the politics can drag you on and on. And Lenka had a question.
If I may, I wanted to take the conversation a little bit outside of Finland. And first of all, I'm very impressed that there's so many eco-modernists running for office here and the pragmatic solutions that you all have. What is the role of Parliament to promote more pragmatic solutions within the European Commission as a whole, or even the UN and climate change talks? Is there a role for you in that?
Atte can start.
Yeah, there definitely. So Finland is going to be the chair of the European Union in July, right? And well, technically, it doesn't bring much formal power, but it has communicative power. And we see that in Europe, we have countries. I mean, very worrisome news about the German stance towards ambitious climate goals because of their, basically it stems from the anti-nuclear movement. Austria is similar. So I think we would definitely could be Finland as a leading like science-based climate policy voice within the union. And in practice, because Finland is the chair country, that kind of means that the head of the government is kind of has some EU face time in the coming year. So that's definitely, I think, thing where actually the Finnish Parliament and the next government can have a lot of informal communicative power.
Tiina.
Yes, I'm going to take it back to Finland. My party has actually made it like the big program it has based on United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and so like everything we do should be like in according to those United Nations goals. And we're also going to be chairing the EU, but also the Arctic Council this year. So we really are in like the middle of like the international attention this year. So it's going to be a very, very interesting year in many ways.
Somebody else, Tere?
I just have to, well, I kind of take it back too, but as Petrus and Atte showed in Helsinki, it's really important that someone actually brings the issue or the technology onto the podium. So for that, I think Finland can't do much when it comes to, shifting the whole EU in the jurisdictional level, but we can bring, as we adopt the becoming position, I think we have a good opportunity to bring the whole SMR discussion to the EU-wide decision making. So.
Someone else?
Yeah, so we're already global leaders in like elevators and used to be mobile phones and education. Everybody knows Finland is great in
We're also the
education.
happiest people.
The happiest people are now. Yeah, that's the hard part to believe. But I mean, I think we can definitely show the way for the world in using SMRs to reduce emissions, especially all northern cities in the world. So it's quite easy, you just do it here and others see it, there's a lot of news and it starts to spread, it's clear arguments and it's already spread. We made this in Helsinki, it spread to 3 other municipalities and so on. But then I think another way where Finland could directly reduce emissions outside its borders is that we have a lot of uranium and thorium here in the bedrock, huge amounts, so we could make full cycle make a lot of SMRs and sell the clean electricity to Germany. How about that? We could make sell as much energy as Norway now does. But okay, Norway's electricity, the energy is not clean; it's oil. But we would sell clean energy as much as Norway, be filthy rich. Win-win.
It is, yeah. It's my kind of fantasy. I think we are wrapping up here. For the closing words, I'd say that the aim of these 6 people and myself and our organization is to have European-wide ecomodernist platform for environmental decisions. That's in the middle term. I'm not sure what the long-term goal is. Maybe worldwide dominance and total victory.
Everybody remember, SMR stands for Small Nuclear Reactors.
So let's give a big hand for the panel. I'll leave it to Eric to decide if he's gonna talk or sing or dance or
Sing together.
All right, well, we'll keep it short here. I'm absolutely blown away with this panel here, and I'm thinking, who out of our volunteers and supporters of Generation Atomic might run for office in the next couple of years? Because, that's incredible. I do know that the Ecomodernist movement is spreading to the U.S. In a new way. We have our friend taking photos here today, Max Ingersoll, is planning on starting a chapter at Harvard University this fall, which is nice, add some prestige to the Ecomodernist brand.
Also now in Harvard.
Right. It's just been an incredible day. I'm filled with hope, as I think a lot of the people are here. So, let's come back in a couple more years when we're putting together some concrete plans for,
some concrete.
Some concrete plans, exactly. All right, so thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kiitos.